Well, doing a little dance, making a little love, getting down tonight. Myron Pitts. Myron Pitts. How are you, sir?
Like all those concepts. Yeah. Doing all right. Doing all
Well,
right.
I've got you on screen right now. You know, this is a
Yeah.
podcast as well as
Of course,
a broadcast.
of
And when you go to the Facebook page or my YouTube page, you will see you. And then you say, hey, that must be the one where I'm doing my thing. So I always started off that way.
All right.
How you doing, man? We were just talking about New Year's.
Yeah, pretty good. Talking about New Year's, So one question I have for you, for other people, specifically for you, how late do you feel that someone can say Happy New Year? How late into the year? Because I know there are some people who believe that if they haven't seen you that year, even if it's months into the year, they can still say, y'all can still exchange Happy
Well,
New Year.
that was the first thing you said to me when you came in. So I guess I have to go along with the roll with the dice here.
We're mid-month now.
Yeah. No, I figure you can say Happy New Year's as much as you feel like you. If you haven't seen the person, and it's your first time you see him for this year, but I think by January, let's move on to something else. That's my thing.
I got one as late as I want to say June. One time, so I had to
Did
say
you really?
Happy New Year in June. So yeah,
And
that's
what
a
was?
little late.
Yeah. Well, what does that say about your relationship with that person? I guess it's really what it
That's
says.
a whole other story, right?
Yeah. Well, Myron is the opinion editor
right.
for the Fayetteville Observer, and let's take a look back last year at some of the things that were big deal for you in terms of stories. What stands out?
Okay. Well, let's see. There's a lot going on last year. One thing I wrote about a lot, and we've talked about here on the air, is the Crown Event Center cancellation. That was certainly one of the big stories of last year, because I think with the planning that went into it, and we all know the history of the entertainment options here in Fayetteville and Cumberland County. It's just been a challenge for us, and I thought that was kind of in line with some of the past challenges, that center being canceled by the commissioners. The other thing, of course, on a very positive note, was the completion of 295. That's I remember when that project was first proposed, it sounded huge, but I also felt from the start that Fayetteville, which has had its issues with the DOT, the state DOT, there's a long history there as well. No need to go into it. In this case, though, it was a very good partnership between Fayetteville, Fort Bragg, the county, the DOT, and I think it's 39-mile loop around the city. Took 23 years. I think a friend of my acquaintance of mine remarked, we were able to put a man on the moon sooner than that.
but look, have you driven the whole thing yet?
I've driven the whole
You have.
thing. I did like a little a TikTok video. I drove the whole thing, sped it up, and so you got a quick glimpse of all the exits on it. And I tell you, Gilbert, it is going to be a very useful road. And it's one of those road projects. A lot of times, by the time a road project, a major one, gets finished, there's already a need for more road. So, but I think this is one of those cases where it's actually a little bit ahead of Fayetteville growth, and that's where you want to be, because Fayetteville growth not only is going to catch up to it naturally, but also the loop itself is going to drive road.
Well, I think that the sidebar of this is that all those exits now have the potential for development in terms of gas stations. There'll be another Sheet, another 7-Eleven, or whatever it might be.
And you already see it happening, because it really does hit the busiest thoroughfares. All the busy thoroughfares in Fayetteville, from Cliffdale Road, Ramsey Street, Rayford Road, it hits them all, and it loops around in the east Fayetteville, loops around to I-95 itself. So it's also a very quick, and what was important to Fort Bragg people is that it's a safe way to move,
Convoys, sure.
Convoys and so forth, rather than have to drive through the city.
Well, but look, that was part of the deal that was proposed on why we needed it.
That's right.
There was
right.
a security thing. You had
Fort Bragg did donate land.
Well, you had
too, as well.
you had 9/11. You had all these issues that Fort Bragg was dealing with, Afghanistan, and we needed to get equipment around. And so the state DOT and even federal government said, let's get this done so that the soldiers from Fort Bragg and their equipment can move very quickly from post and get on 95 and get to 40 and get out of Dodge.
Been talked about since 9/11. So
yeah,
the road is a great project. I guess one other story I would bring in, of course, is that we had municipal elections, Fayetteville City Council, and a lot, as they say, a lot of things stayed the same, but a lot of things changed. And so we do have a different looking council now in some respects. Of course, Mayor Colvin won, so that's one of the things that stayed the same. But it'll be interesting. This council is already tackling some pretty major issues, which I've written about in my last series of columns. So we move forward, and of course this year we got commissioner races and school board as well as the midterms, which is second only to the Super Bowl presidential year.
And we've got 10 people or 11 people running for county commissioner.
Good to see.
Yeah,
Good to see.
we've got 5 or 6 at large, and some for District 1 as well. And I'm interviewing some of those folks. I'm sure you are as well.
Yeah,
trying to get a sense of it.
The Observer has. Yeah, we have pieces about all the commissioners that are running. Those are actually partisan races. By the party. So we did the Republicans yesterday. We got the Democrats up there today. I like to see a good crowded field because people like to have choices. One of the worst outcomes of the heavy gerrymandering that they do at the state level, where they basically draw districts, so either one party wins, whether it's the majority party or the minority party. None of the districts really turn out to be competitive. So it's great to see a good competitive race where people feel like my voice will make a difference.
Well, that's been going on for some time. It doesn't matter who's in power. Whoever's in power is going to try and draw the lines to make sure it favors them in the next election.
Right.
And it's not illegal. It's just
it's not illegal. The one difference, though, I've heard people say versions of that it's always been done. You can do it in much more extreme fashion than you used to. And I think there's a temptation, whether it's the Republicans here or the Democrats in Maryland or, Republicans in Texas or Democrats in California, the majority party can really just almost extinguish the minority party, just using these computer-drawn districts that load. And what it does, and I mentioned that, it makes non-competitive districts even in the minority party, because what happens is majority party draws districts that they feel they can't lose, but because they can't completely draw the other party out completely of existence, they have a couple districts or 2 or 3 districts that the minority party can't lose. so it becomes, you have a lot of non-competitive districts. But I think the trend with that is there's a trend against that, even though it doesn't seem like that now. I think the public is really speaking with a voice that they don't really like that. And the surest example you can see is voter registrations here in North Carolina. Independent voters have outpaced both Republicans and Democrats in terms of party registrations, and that number is only going in one direction.
That allows individuals to not have to make a commitment to either
primary.
Right.
They
that's
want
it.
to. But I think that's, some voters are being strategic about it, and that's why they want that flexibility. But from what my read and from talking to people, what I'm hearing is that people are just frustrated with both parties, and they want to be independent. And so that's the largest group of voters here in North Carolina.
And for the first time in history of the state.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the thing, and what ends up happening is you have a lot of good people who decide not to run because they look at the makeup of the composition. They say, well, there's no
way I can win.
That's right. So why run? And then you have some incumbents who say, I'm not going to run again because the way the lines have been drawn, there's no way I can win again.
Right, and we have seen that happen. We've seen on both. We certainly have seen on both sides of the aisle where an incumbent is just kind of drawn out of any feasible path back to the seat, and they just decide to hang it up. So nothing good comes from gerrymandering. Like you said, it's legal. The Supreme Court currently is U.S. Supreme Court is pretty much agnostic on it. Lets the states do what they want to, and that's just where we are right now.
All right, let's bring it up to this weekend. We are not going to have a Martin Luther King parade.
Yeah.
I know who you talked to. I know I've talked with the mayor. I've also talked with law enforcement.
Right.
The committee cited some safety issues.
Right.
I haven't found a safety issue yet with the police or with the mayor or the city. Yeah. What's your take and your reporting on it?
Yeah, I've not delved into the issue. I've read the reporting that's been out there on it. I have talked to the committee regarding the MLK Park, and so it's the same committee. So I have no specific insight to offer on why there is no parade. It is a loss to the community. From what I've read, it could be rescheduled, but these things can't just be turned around on a dime. So,
well, that's right. I mean, there's an awful lot of stuff that goes into planning a parade in terms of permits, security, porta potties, and having folks who are going to take part actually say, okay, I'm going to march and bring my band and bring my unit from Fort Bragg or whatever it might be. So unfortunately for us, the person who organized it for many years has stood down. And then last year, I think we had a weather delay because of cold weather. And they did postpone it.
That's right.
But we also want to make the point, and I made this last hour because we had Kevin Brooks in here, along with Pastor Walker with the Ministerial Council. The brunch is still on. And did you hear? I just found out that it's sold out.
Yeah. I'm not surprised. It's always it's been a big event, as you know, for decades now. And the other thing that makes it a little less surprising that it's sold out, it's also a big election year, as we were just talking about. So a lot of if you're running for office, you kind of want to be seated.
You want to be there, right?
At that event, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's great though because of the legacy and honors.
Yeah, and we talk about the parade and the events that are sort of centered around what happens during the King holiday, and we were talking about the history of it. I'm 70 years old, and when we start talking about this, it hits home to me because my cousin was in direct contact with Martin Luther King the day before he was assassinated. Dr. King sent him to Chicago to start the Chicago Project, and Jesse Jackson called him and said, "You got to come back because Dr. King was assassinated." And it's I have his book, and I got a chance to interview him during the 50th anniversary down in Memphis, and I saw Jesse Jackson down there. As a matter of fact, Channel 5 sent me down there to cover it, and I was walking through the MLK Park. Have you been there? I mean, the Memphis, the Lorraine Hotel.
Oh, I have not. No.
Oh my gosh! I mean, it is. You walk around the streets and you turn around the corner to the Lorraine Hotel, and you think you're back in the 1960s. The way the hotel has been preserved, it's a museum, and they've got vehicles out there that from that era as well. I was walking through the museum itself, and here comes Jesse Jackson with an entourage, and I'm there with my photographer, and I remember talking with Jesse down at the plant in the chicken fire down in, where was that? That was at
was it Hamlet?
And Hamlet, yes. And then so I knew him from there, and I saw him. I said, "Jesse, it's good to see you again." I mentioned that to him, and he gave me a firsthand account of the shooting of Dr. King right there in the Lorraine Hotel.
Yeah,
and
it had to be powerful.
I mean,
even you relating it.
I'm just standing there with him, face to face, and he said, and he did my shoulder like this, and he said, "The bullet came through Martin right here like this." And then you see a picture of me and Andrew Jackson pointing.
Yep, that's right.
And
that's
what that
photo,
that pointing, he said we were pointing to where the gunfire came from, and then all of a sudden there Dr. King was on the ground. And to hear that in the Lorraine Hotel,
firsthand account.
I mean, it was powerful. Powerful.
We are of a generation. You're a little bit older than me. I'm 55, but we're of a generation where we still have direct ties. My parents, when they were first eligible to vote to the civil rights movement, the civil rights era. My parents, when they were first eligible to vote, could not vote. They had the right. The Constitution said they had the right, but they grew up in Georgia. My dad in Valdosta, my mom in Carroll County, in Carrollton, near Carrollton, and they, were not able to vote. So the civil rights, and my dad has a harrowing story when he was a college student. He was at Fort Valley State University, HBCU, historically black college. And that's actually where my parents met. But they were just courting, as they say now. They were just courting at that time as college kids, and he was going to see her, and he was stopped for maybe speeding. My dad was a speed demon back in the day. He's mellowed out quite a bit, but he was stopped, and these were just to be blunt, just racist cops. And they were giving him a hard time. And my dad, he's told us this story, and he's related it. He can laugh at it now. But when I look back at it later, his life was in peril because, they took the money from the fine, the so-called ticket right there. And it was like $20-something, which back in the 60s, that was a lot of money. And it was the money that my dad was going to use to take my mom out and all that kind of stuff. So he made some comment like, well, I hope you put it to good use or something like that. And back then, as a black person, you didn't talk to any white person like that in the South, much less lawmen, authorities. And they wound up, taking him in, arresting him, and they were making jokes about what they thought was funny, but he didn't think at all. It was like, we should kill this N-word and throw him in the river. And so my dad, the humor he tells in the story is that one of the cops said, you one of them Fort Valley N-words, right? I mean, he goes to college up there. And he's like, who's the principal up there? And it kind of showed my dad as, you don't really call the person who runs the college a principal. So it's kind of showed him what he was dealing with. But he was lucky to get out of that situation alive. And fortunately,
that's what I'm going to say. Yeah, fortunately, he did, and here you are.
So we come from that era. So when we see this progress that's being made and in some respects being rolled up, it really does have a great impact. I remember John Lewis, who was one of my heroes. I got to hear him speak in Fayetteville. And of course, a lot of people know him from the Pettus Bridge.
Sure.
Where he used to do the march every year. Have you ever been on that march, by the way?
No, but my cousin was. I've got pictures of him. He was arrested with Dr. King.
Yeah.
Look, we got 30 seconds here, and Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year.
Since I guess we can say that.
That's we can say it.
We can say that.
Hey, next, in a couple of weeks, we can still say it. Why not?
All right. Myron Pitts, always a pleasure to have you on board
Always
here.
great to be here.
You say every other week, right?
Yeah.
We've got to get back on track.
That's right. It's every other week. And just in line with what I was saying, my most recent column was about the Black Voices Museum. So price tag's coming in a little high right now. There's still some negotiations and talk. They're looking for private investment. But go check that story out because that goes right into the heart of what we were just talking about, Black history.
All right. Myron Pitts, always a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much. We look forward to you, and we'll see you in about a week or so. You're listening to News Talk 640 WFNC. Right now, we've got Fayetteville's most dependable forecast with CBS 17 meteorologist Rachel Dunsing.
We're actually going to go dive straight into some commercials.
All right, let's do that. You're in charge.